Hello. I can't hear. Uh-oh. I can hear Kelsey.
I can hear Jeff.
Can
I
you
can't
hear me
hear Lily.
now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm tired. Um, so thanks for joining us, everybody. This is Canopy Right, and we're doing Wednesday and Fridays a Meet the Creator series for folks that have participated early in Canopy Right, a blockchain system that helps protect and secure your genetics without touching them, as well as monetize them for the licensing market. I'm Lelehnia DuBois, and with me is Kelsey and Jeff. We are the Canopy Right team, and we're meant to talk to Sean Stam, who is an amazing second generation farmer out here in Honeydew in Humboldt. He has been a great supporter of many things around this plant and is a huge community member. But I got a call from him about 20 minutes ago, and he is on the road between here, Eureka, and Benbow down in Garberville. He is going to try to get on, but we're not sure how that's going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, Sean is amazing, and we will reschedule for sure. But Jeff and Kelsey, why don't you guys? I'm delirious. I've been on the road since 6, so why don't you guys say something?
I
Because
got
I
food
am
poisoning.
delirious.
I got food poisoning, so I'm a little delirious too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
What did you eat?
I don't even want to get into it for our guests.
Well,
Yeah.
Kelsey.
I I've been having a good day because I'm actually at the end of a sickness, feeling much better these days, so that's great. And I see some familiar faces in the audience. I see Brian's in here, and some new people, Randy, and someone's wheat account, which is a great name.
I'm
Dave
dying to meet
Dillon,
that someone because I love the name.
Bridu Kiltio. If you guys want to say like where you're at, what location you're
And
tuning in from, and if you have any questions for us, we're
yeah,
happy to
while we're
answer it.
waiting for Sean, you guys, it would be a great time to ask any hard questions. Please, please shoot us your best. Hey, Cha, we were just talking about you today. We were heading out in Trinity, Rob and I, and he was saying all this great stuff about you, and I can't wait to see some of your work in person, my friend. Let us know when we can show you the system. But yeah, you guys, listen, if you have any questions that you're like, oh, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, or oh, what the heck is this? Ooh, are they taking our DNA? Oh, what does this blockchain thing do? Please.
Maybe we should just
Okay, well, what the
answer
heck is
what the
this,
heck is
Kelsey?
this? So Canopy Right is an app it's got a blockchain backend for encryption, and it's for breeders to be able to register and create contracts, licensing agreements for their unique cultivars. And it was founded by Jeff, and he had the idea when he was meeting with one of his clients who needed a way to sorry, I got distracted by that comment there. They need a way to archive their strains and be able to have a backup of what is this strain. And so there's a physical sample element that we call the time capsule, where you put fresh leaves into a tamper evident bag, And you can put a QR code in that bag that ties it to a digital record on Canopy Right, which is your personal archive. You can choose to have it be completely private just to you. You're the only person who can unencrypt or decode that and be able to read it, or you can showcase it and have people reach out to you if they're interested in licensing that from you. And there's a full negotiation, contract negotiation process for licensed cultivators and nurseries in all of the states that have legalized at this point. And we even have a automated royalty contract that works with Metric in the states that are partnered with Metric. So all of that data that everybody goes through the trouble of cataloging actually comes up with something good. You know, the breeders, the original inventors of that plant can receive fair compensation for it. So we got a question. All right. If someone wants to use your stuff, how do they get it? Jeff?
Same way they do now. So we're not changing the, you know, you have to mail seeds or someone comes to your farm to pick up clones. That part's not changing. What is changing is the protection that the breeders get, how the contract works rather than doing a handshake deal, which is something that you do on your phone, and how you get paid. So rather than just getting paid at the first point of sale, you get paid as your genetics are scaled.
Must it be only in state, or could you send seeds
So right now
across
we're
state lines?
only doing in-state, but the way that we've built it is as we have the ability to do interstate commerce, we're going to just turn on sort of interstate transactions. So right now it'll just say not available, but you can use the marketplace to show off your work if somebody's out of state. But the idea is to change that as soon as humanly possible.
We'll stay
I'm gonna
on top of all the
I'm gonna
laws.
do a training for lawyers on the DEA guidance for hemp versus marijuana next couple of months with the people that got the DEA to put in writing their position on hemp seeds. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, we're gonna go from there, and just as soon as interstate commerce is viable using our system, we're gonna allow for it to happen.
Could you?
But it's currently not.
It's currently not right
But
now.
could you follow that up with how it does benefit the home grower?
Yeah, so it benefits the home grower in a bunch of ways. The most important being that it allows you to establish prior art in your genetics. So if Monsanto says, this is mine, you can say, no, it isn't. And here I can prove it up and look at my timestamp. So, I mean, that's one way. Home grower, I think we use the term home grower to describe a lot of people that really aren't home growers. They're people that have, you know, worked in this industry for a very, very, very long time. They just don't have a license. And so we call them a home grower because legally that's what they are. But if you have a catalog that you've worked on for decades, you're going to be able to sell that one day. And so what we want to do is give you the ability today to start building out that catalog. So when the time comes where there's federal legalization, or if you're in a place like California with like very restrictive laws, they change the laws to be more fair, reasonable, then you'll have the opportunity to start engaging in commerce.
Yes. And another thing that we recommend doing is timestamping before you send your plant material anywhere, especially if you maybe are working with a Humboldt Creek's Legacy project on authentication and validation. Layla's got some really great connections to get people discounts on genetic testing if you're a part of that group. But having your strain, your cultivar time-stamped before you send your plant material out to a place like that is highly
Well, I'd
recommended.
like to follow that up with what we're finding out through that project that Kelsey mentioned, and it has its own Instagram account if you guys want to check it out. It's an open group. Everybody's welcome. It's volunteers only. The bottom rules are we treat each other with love and grace, and we act in love and grace. But what we're finding out through that group of getting to work with, we have, I think it's about 115 people across the globe, is that the more data you put around your cultivar, such as 6 years of COAs, or maybe it's not COAs, maybe you just have R&D and HPLC testing, but 6 years of that, even 3 years of that adds value to that cultivar because it helps show that it does what you say it's going to do. Even, I used to keep notes, and then I got blackmailed back in 2012 and I burned them all. But those notes, if you've kept grow data over through medical, that's of value too. It shows the stability of that plant and that you know how to help it reach its outcome. So what Canopy Right has not only created this great place that Kelsey talked about, and Jeff, where you can catalog, protect your data before you send it to a lab or do anything, but it's also where you can start compiling all these data points, which are really assets, which are like your labs, or even there's a cool little place in there where you can tell story. All those things we have learned mean a cultivar costs more. Sorry, guys, I'm really tired. This joint, and this is not a joke, this is like totally the real deal. The cultivar that grew this joint was $50,000. And the reason being is because it has a unique CBG THC profile. The cultivator of this joint is also doing really amazing agreements all over the place with this cultivar, and it's done some really smart work. But these tools, when you have these tools, you're more likely to get to a place where your cultivar is worth more than the average market clone.
What's the name of
I
this
can't say
cultivar?
yet.
I mean,
It's going to be in Canopy Right.
I think one thing we were talking about this morning was if you have a rare, like, terpene or cannabinoid in your genetics, because what we're doing is allowing people to search based on advanced chemical tags. You might have something that has been in your garden for 10 years. You're not really selling it commercially because it's not 30% THC or whatever, but you should be in a position where L'Oreal wants it for a particular cosmetic and you have the one thing that they need, and all of a sudden this plant that you didn't think you could sell because it wasn't 30% THC is going to be the next billion-dollar cosmetic product, and you should be able to profit from that because you were the person that took a decade to find this genetic, stabilize it, get it to a point where it could be grown at scale, and get it to a point where it could be found by the people that recognize the value of it.
And this isn't just, Jeff has done agreements like this through his law practice. And you can actually go on Instagram right now and Google Peaceful Easy Living. It's a new brand coming out in 6 different states. And those brand curators came to me and were like, we need a low THC, high myrcene profile. And this was, 4 years ago now. Because they wanted the peaceful, easy feeling. They didn't want couch lock. They wanted to meet, they knew their target audience, and they knew that they needed to create a pre-roll that came out the best it could over and over again. The brand developer of that company created a company called 1-800-DENTIST. And 1-800-DENTIST actually revolutionized medical care. And someone of that brand intellect new to create a pre-roll where they could get that consumer loyalty, genetics were a key part of that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. If anybody has, maybe in the past you've lost a cultivar and you wish you had had it back, throw that down in the comments. And when Canopy Right launches at the end of in less than a week, you'll be able to see if anybody has the cultivar you're looking for on Canopy Right. But for now, we have to kind of do it the old-fashioned way and try to find it by strain name. But hopefully, we'll be able to someday be able to search by measurable compounds. Being able to look up the rare terpenes that were in a strain in order to find something like.
Yeah, and as Kelsey mentioned, we're taking the beta code off on the 30th, which means that anyone can go in, register, and look and participate at whatever level they should choose. But if you would like to be a part of that and be in there beforehand, or even just take a look, just shoot us a note here through Canopy Right, and I'll reach out to you and we'll have a chat. Even if you don't want to take a look and you want to be like, what the heck are you guys talking about? How does this work? Reach out, because it's in a lot of ways, we're talking about a new marketplace. Sean keeps trying to join, but he's not able to. But I think he's going to keep trying because I know he's on the road.
A bummer. Wow.
If anybody else wants to request to come up and chat with us.
Especially if you're a tough customer with tough questions like this.
Oh, look, immediately. All right.
Yeah, what are some of the tough customer questions?
I think I just invited him up. I hope so. Okay. Accept. It's not responding to me. Let me try just inviting him. There we go.
Hi, Udelic.
All right.
Eugene.
Peace.
Hooray.
Which mountain are you on, my friend?
Oh, I'm in a valley.
How are you?
Yeah, the mountains are up there.
Beautiful. So, Chaw, you're in Willow Creek, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right
Yep.
on. Well, why don't I know a little about? It's nice to kind of see you face to face. I'm Lele. Folks have been talking about you to me, and it sounds like me to you. So, thank you for coming up here.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to Jeff and Kelsey, and what do you have to ask, or what do you want to say?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, my name is Russell Pace, and I'm the founder of CHA, the Cannabis Horticultural Association, and it was founded, to provide a platform for ecological, regenerative, and organic management practices for cannabis. And then over the years, I recognized the value of, seeds that go along with memberships, kind of freebies, and then it's kind of spiraled into some genetics and breeding on my end. So I'm getting, pretty heavily vested in that. It's really interesting because in the back of my mind, I've been toying around with the idea of the genetics and blockchain for a while now. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that actually, I could see some really cool things around that. And so Canopy Right, to me, is the inception of that idea. It's actually finally coming to life. I have my own, I see, I'm in my limited sphere of influence. I see limitations on it now, but that's just because I don't fully understand it. But I would like to sort of clarify some of those. And as you guys develop, I can see over time all of this being worked out. So, one of the questions I was going to ask that was popping up earlier is just around, if you were actually looking for some legal, recourse, it seems like it would be really hard to define, like, if someone has a CBG profile that's say 20% CBG, 10% CBD, 20% CBD, 10% CBG. And then someone else has one that's 19% CBD and 9% CBG. it's close, but it's different. It's like how, there's some gray area there, a lot of gray area swirling around regarding like how you would enforce that. That's one thought I had. The other idea, that as you guys are talking and I'm thinking through all this, that's really exciting though, is the idea of creating a database where you have your own genetics. And like you said, maybe you have something that's myrcene dominant, and then you have that listed, and literally you're essentially allowing this interface to, for farms and corporations to find your genetics. Like if they're looking, they're like, oh, look, we need something that, we really want terpinolene. We need terpinolene. You're now providing that. That to me seems like right now it's more value in that regards. I don't, as opposed to like creating legal recourse for that. Not to say that it doesn't exist. I really want to talk to Kevin McKiernan because he's the genetics guy, and he can help me understand a little more about some of the genetics mapping and like what that can mean.
So
Can we get him on the? Can we get him to do one of these?
To do this?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Rob.
I don't, well,
Rob said he was going to have a call on Friday.
Yeah, what we'll do, what Rob was talking about is he was going to get me your email so I could invite you to the Legacy Project call on Fridays, which Kevin's a part of. And when we go in there, we have open session, and you'd be able, if he was there, you'd be able to ask him. But also he does give time for folks in that project. So we can see, I think, I think we should talk offline about him coming on.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's all good. So,
Totally.
so like someone commented, search terpene specifics. That's an interesting characteristic, where if you have genetics and you make them available, now you wouldn't necessarily even have to put the name of the cross. You could put XS13, but you show the profile, and then if a company's interested in that, then they can pursue it that way. I see a lot of potential too in collaborative breeding efforts where you have a bunch of small growers all working together, compiling data, and now they can create their own contracts and unified platforms. I think that's where I see the value. That's where I see the value. What was I going to say though? There was one more question I had about that. Metric. So for example, for small breeders, like let's say there's 10 let's say there's 10 closet growers that are working on one specific set of genetics that's high in THCV or something special. One guy got it, and he's got something really special, and they have something very unique, and they want to sell it through that. Do they have to be licensed to sell this? How does that work?
All right, I'm going to start with the last question and work backwards so I don't get too confused.
So I'm going.
No, this is good.
Get them all out there.
So the
part
last
of the
question
answer to the first question.
Okay. Yes, you have to. The way that it's right now, you have to have a nursery license to sell genetics in California. But we're allowing home growers, unlicensed persons, pretty much everyone to use this system. And the idea is the laws in the state of California are going to change eventually because they're nonsensical. And other states will allow people to get their genetics into the system. The DEA said marijuana seeds are hemmed, so you can put them in the mail. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
So the state of California's position is more restrictive than it is anywhere else. But the goal is to create the interface right now that allows people to like sort of plant their flag with what they believe their genetics to be. And then as the laws change or we, spend enough time getting under the skin of the people of the DCC that they just like let us have what we want, then we're going to start to turn on the features. So what it will look like for you is it'll just say available or unavailable. It'll be pretty simple. And then over time, we're going to turn it on so that you're available to a larger universe of contracting parties.
Okay. All right. So basically, you would have to develop a relationship with a farm or nursery that's licensed if you want to, work the metric magic.
Exactly.
And then you could get in that way. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay, that's clear. Thanks.
Um,
They can find you on Canopy, right? If you have a nursery license and you make your strain available for a royalty style contract, someone who's shopping around, maybe they're a multi-state operator, and they already have the pre-roll that, you know, it's like a nighttime pre-roll or whatever in Oregon. They're trying to find a similar terp profile, and they find yours. Then they can make that offer with you. You
Okay.
negotiate it with them until it gets to the point where you like it, and then accept the offer, and you're in a legally binding agreement. Then it's up to you to transfer the plants to them and make sure that they
Yeah, no, that's cool.
do the
Yeah, no, I
transfer
really
of
like that Rob was
payment
explaining
properly.
that to me. I think that's a really interesting component of Canopy Right. Again, I think it down the road as you guys sort of, you know, get this thing going and hammer out a few loose ends, there's going to be a lot of potential for collective breeding efforts, like small breeders coming together, all working on one, you know, especially if you combine, you know, Marty has that machine. What is it called? The orange the
yeah,
The light.
spectrometer.
yeah, the
Yeah,
light
orange.
lab.
Orange
Yeah,
photonic.
yes.
Yeah.
If you could combine that into this, where you could then hunt populations, you know, I think there's huge potential there. Also, you know, moving forward more rapidly.
Getting the
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Russell,
feedback.
what it is Canopy Right is a place for you to put all that in, but we don't want to tell you that you can't be a part of Canopy Right if you don't do HPLC, if you can't do a DNA test. We also don't want to tell you who to go to for any of those things. We want you to have that choice. So what we did, what this is a place for you to put all that information where people cannot mine your data without your permission, which is pretty unheard of, and start
Right.
compiling all of that information. So now you do know that, you know, this guy has this and that, and you really know what it is. I want to go back to the first part of the
Yeah,
question.
that was the more interesting
Yeah,
question.
mine is
We had
19% and his is 14%, and it's the
Right.
same. Well, it's a similar answer. What we're seeing is you might have two very similar cultivars, but you're going to have different information behind those cultivars, and you're going to have different processes. And depending on who that buyer is and what they want, they're going to like one over the other because of their preferences. And so what we're doing is, instead of you trying to talk that buyer into buying your stuff, you're showing that buyer that you have exactly what they need through the plant and the science. It's no longer, dude, look what I got, and oh no, that's not good. It's like, no, dude, look what I got.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah. It's a
a terpene profile. What do you mean it's not good?
Can we talk about the enforcement question?
Yes.
Because that seems like, I don't know, that's the tough question. So I want to answer it head on. All right. So the question was,
Can we restate
I
the
think the question was, you've got two genetics that are like virtually indistinguishable, and like both unique. So one is whatever, I don't even need to get into
yeah.
it. And one is yours, one is someone else's. And like, how do you say who owns what? And what do you do if you think you got ripped off? So I think the answer to the first question is, and I feel very strongly about this, that it doesn't matter how close two things are for your ability to get paid. The only thing that really matters is, like, this is my genetic and you want to grow it, so you're going to get your clones from me, and then you're going to grow it out, and then you're going to pay me as you grow it out. The similarity to any other genetic, from our perspective, doesn't matter so long as two people agreed to do this deal. So we think about this a lot like how copyright works. And I've used this example before, but you could have 10 different photos of the celebrity on a sunny day that are identical everywhere. You couldn't tell the photographer did, but each different photographer has the copyright to their own photo, even if it's absolutely identical to 10 other photos. we like to run the system the exact same way because it allows for the most freedom for people to do deals with each other with the least amount of sort of like stake, because you don't actually have to show the uniqueness of each thing. You just have to show that somebody agreed to pay you. So
Yeah.
that's what we wanted to do. So that's part one of the question. Part two of the question is, how do you enforce any of this? So what we're doing is this isn't copyright, you can't copyright a plant, but what we wanted to do was to create a system that works pretty similarly, but only using contract law. So that's kind of like how the entire system works right now. Like Cookies doesn't grow plants, they enter into licensing agreements. And we just wanted to take that same thing, but make it so that you could do it on your phone and only take a few minutes. It's cheap. You don't have to hire a lawyer.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the downside is it's not like you have a patent for something like Monsanto.
Yeah.
If they think you're growing their soybeans, they'll go to a court, they'll get a restraining order to shut your farm down. This is, if somebody rips you off, they have to rip you off and make $1 million or $100,000, enough money to justify you going to court.
Right.
So it doesn't have teeth in the same way as like the patent system, but there's no upfront cost and there's no patent system.
That's right. And it's right for the breeder, it's sort of a free service until the contract comes. Yeah, I know that makes a lot of sense. That's interesting. And like you're saying earlier, the more data you have behind it, you know, the years of COAs, the more likely it's more supporting evidence if a case were to be brought up. So yeah, no, it makes sense. I do see it now. I'm starting to see it more clearly now in terms of it's more of like a platform to link up with people who want your genetics based on the profiles that you're providing.
Exactly.
I'm seeing it now.
And it's a fairer way to get paid because the way that it works right now, and I know that there was like a reference to Strainly in the chat, but the way it works right now, you know, you sell a bag of seeds to someone and they grow 10 plants, they grow 100,000 plants, but you only got paid for that one bag of seeds. And from our perspective, if the government is going to make you put a tag on every single plant, then you're already collecting all of the data you need to create a fairer pay-as-you-go system, rather than you just get paid at the first point of sale and somebody else could get rich, but you got $100.
Right. Yeah. No, it's an interesting one. Once the seed gets in, I mean, that's kind of another rabbit hole we could go down, but with seeds, you know, because there's variability in genetics, and if it's not really an inbred line, if it's just, you know, crosses, when you send your genetics out in the world, most of the time people aren't expecting seeds to come back exactly the same genetic makeup, you know? So I could see with seeds, it becomes much harder to navigate, but with clones, it makes a lot of sense.
We've got a question about how the royalties works too.
Yeah,
Yeah, go. You guys talk. I'm good. You answered most of my questions, so if that's the last thing I say, I'm good for now. So,
Russell.
So I mean, I think that's an important point.
Before you go,
yeah.
will you?
No, I'm here. I'll stay.
I have your email.
Yeah. It's just, you want to write it down right now? You got it, a pen or something? All right, I'll text you. I'll text it to you in
Canopy Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. What was that, Jeff? Sorry, I just didn't want to not get the email.
Oh, I like that. Oh, my wife joined. That's exciting.
Hi, Jeff.
So it does.
Hi, Jeff.
Is to be able to test if you think you got ripped off, to test if two plans are like close to the same. So testing whether or not you got ripped off will work for seeds and clones, but this entire system works much better for clones because they're identical to their parents, as opposed to being, you know, half mom plant, half the dad plant.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clarifying.
Okay, so royalties. Let's talk about royalties. If you think about a cannabis breeder as an artist and a cannabis strain as a song, and you know that you have to put a little tag on each plant because the government makes you, then we think of that as the equivalent of the play of a song. And so the more plants of a particular strain get grown, when that information is entered in metric, because the government makes you, then we just process that and generate an invoice. The invoices are completely confidential between the buyers and the sellers. We don't actually see them. We charge a small fee, so we'll know that a buyer owes us $20. We don't know why, because we don't look at their invoices. But that's essentially how it works. The idea is to take the same invoicing mechanism that music streaming services work and apply it to cannabis, because you have to put the little tags on every plant, and so you can.
Yeah, and if someone's growing a ton of your cultivar, you could see the proportionality, how well is it doing, and see a higher amount for it if it does really well. And then if if they stop growing as much of it, it's all
We got a
proportional.
Philo's question.
So
Do we want to go into that or no?
Yes.
We
let's
also
talk
have a
about
question about the different phenotypes and same strains up there a ways back. But yeah, I think we should answer whatever anyone's asking without disrespect.
I have one more royalty question, follow-up question with the royalties.
Okay.
So basically, if I were to engage with a contract and you have a way of tracking each, like let's say I worked with Highline, just make up a story here. Highline Nursery wants to buy my grape goodies, and I have this cut and it goes into production at Highline. You're saying, from Rob, what it sounded like Rob was saying is that your system can track each clone, because it's tied to metric, it can track each clone produced for that nursery's production. Is that accurate?
No, because the problem with nurseries is that you can batch clones.
Right.
So we're using flowering plants.
Flowering plants. Okay, you
yes.
can track flowering plants production. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so nursery is not the
Yeah,
best.
so we're tracking flowering plant production,
Okay.
not clone production.
Okay, got it. Clarified. Thank you. All right.
But we would like to one day.
Yeah,
it's
that'd
just
be cool.
A more complicated technical challenge.
Yep. You guys got a lot of things. Yeah, but I can see down the road that would be really cool too. Like getting 10 cents, 20 cents per clone for royalties,
Exactly.
What I would like to do,
that'd be cool.
I mean, there's like so many things I want to do, but it would be nice to flow through processor licenses. So you could do like a royalty based on finished pounds as opposed to flowering plants.
No, yeah.
That would be really nice. Or you could also you could flow through the supply chain. Every time somebody buys one of your pre-rolls, we generate a royalty. And each pre-roll relates back to a physical sample that's living in your freezer. So that would be, there's a lot of ways that we want to take this eventually, but.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, I think you guys had a few other questions, but thanks for answering that. That's interesting.
Clarification question. If I buy one clone and make 100 out of it, I'd still owe the breeder. In a royalty-based contract, if you had agreed to pay the breeder off of the clones that you've made into flowering plants, then yes, that is what you agreed to in the contract for a royalty basis. There's also an different option, which is the one-time contract, which is just the way business is currently done. You just pay once when you take the clones out the door and you're done. You do agree to not go change the strain name on them and sell it as your own, but and a few other things on that one.
Okay.
Thoughts on Philo? So are we ready to move to that
sure.
question?
I mean, I think the way that we're doing this is to prevent that from happening. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to say mean things about Philos because I'd rather use my time doing other things. But the one thing I would say is the goal of our project is like total data protection. So if you want to use Canopy Right to create your own private archive and never share it with anyone, you just want to like take physical samples to protect yourself against, big ag saying that they own your genetics. and you want to build out your profiles in case you want to sell them one day, or you want to sell, your portfolio to, I don't know,
Oh, I like that.
another company, you're able to do that. But the way we built this was there's no backdoor, there's no admin privileges. If you want to keep something private, it's completely private, even from us, and that's really important.
And it's decentralized versus they were taking people's plant samples at their centralized location,
Oh,
testing
yeah.
them. Whereas here, you
Right.
keep your sample in your
And
own
so
freezer.
there's been a lot of talk about whether the phyllos people intended to screw over the growers. But I think from our perspective, it's really we just want to make a system where that's not possible. That can't happen.
Yeah. It sounded like from Philos, from my perspective, they wanted to aggregate the data to look for markers and then use those markers for, monetization.
Which is what most biotech and genetic
Yeah.
testing companies want to do. And it's why it's really important to timestamp your own copy of your cultivar before you send it anywhere, and make sure that your agreement with them says that they won't use your data without first consulting you and without
just for my
giving
own
you early.
edification, the login, the private records that you could keep private, is that just done through a website? That's not actually on blockchain, or is how is it? You guys are using HBAR, is that right? Hedera is Hedera.
We're using Hedera. We're not
using
no, that's right. That's the
using
coin. I forgot. That's the coin attached to the technology. Sorry, my bad.
No. There is no coin attached to the tech.
It's just okay, right?
It's just
all right.
contracts.
So, but I guess just to clarify, all of the data, it's not the data is just on a private website. Essentially, is what.
Just like your timestamp, Russell, is protected, where you're the only person who has the key to that blockchain. All your data is timestamped with that DNA through a QR code process.
Okay, got it.
And it's fully encrypted, so your login, your login is basically your private key to unencrypt, to decode all of that encryption. So when someone's looking at the blockchain, they can't just, it's not in human readable form. It's all
that's
in
cool.
an encrypted
that's pretty
format,
nifty.
So no one else can read it.
I like where this is going. I like where that's going.
It's the way we use it.
Yeah.
For data privacy.
That's cool.
All right. Are we getting through these questions? Because now I think we got a bunch here.
So someone asked what the starting price is. The starting price is free for the breeders, right? To log in, to sign up.
Right. The creator, it's not priced per cultivar. Earlier, Jeff was talking about how when a buyer or someone who wishes to purchase a cultivar, then they'll pay a one-time fee for a contract, kind of like other contract services online. And then when those plants are invoiced in a royalty agreement, we get a small service fee off of that comes again off of the buyer's contract, not the breeder's negotiation price.
So you guys, are you set up as a nonprofit?
No.
Or is it a for-profit?
No.
It's not. Okay, but
so
you guys,
the IRS wouldn't let it. I mean, we're processing cannabis transactions for a fee, so the IRS wouldn't let us be I mean, we're not a nonprofit because we're not a nonprofit, but also we couldn't be a nonprofit because the IRS wouldn't allow it.
Got it.
So
Green Ghost Organic. I like the
other thing is the starting price.
Can we talk about that?
Sure. I want to quickly just mention starting price. If you meant what is the starting price on the offer, that's up to you. You can set that however you want as the breeder seller.
Yeah. So the more hands in the cookie jar. We'll just talk about our pricing because we should. So we're never charging So we're never charging the breeders to use the system. So you can register as many cultivars as you want. We don't charge you. We charge the buyers a one-time fee because we wrote your contract for you. If you negotiate a deal with a breeder for a specific genetic, that's either $40 or $60, and then we charge a 3% fee if we're automating your invoicing using the royalty-based service. So it's obviously much, much, much cheaper than hiring a lawyer. I don't know if that's a hand in the cookie jar, but it's really, you can we're facilitating people to source exact genetics that they want, and we're not really charging very much. But that's my hand in your cookie jar, green ghost organics.
Yeah, in a way, it's a disruptive technology because previously the only people who were able to do cultivar licensing deals like this were the ones who could afford lawyers, you know, $3,000 for a
Right.
contract write up versus
Yeah.
$0
No, I'm seeing a
for
lot of
Canopy
potential.
Right. But for
There's
40
this
bucks for
thing.
the person who
It's
buys it.
there's gonna be. This is the way that small breeders can collectively work together to potentially create larger licensing deals. I
Yeah.
see that. It's very obvious to me that this is a potential outcome for this entire business. So it's pretty exciting. It just, there's some little, you know, subtleties that need to be worked through as it develops, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's also, you know, kind of like social sharing features. You've got your secret squirrel list where you can save your favorite cultivars, and then you've got the sharing, which anyone who follows you, it's very similar to Instagram in this way. You can share other people's posts, you know, their cultivars, and whoever follows you, then they see that at the top of their feed.
So there's this question here that it's almost suited to pheno hunters, or I guess more suited to pheno hunters than to breeders. I don't see it that way. I want us to get to a point where, you know, federal legalization happens and you've got this killer genetics because it makes you feel great and you can still use it to work and it cures your back pain, whatever. Like, I want one breeder to be able to have their genetics being cultivated at 15 farms in 13 states and to just get a check at the end of every month. That's the goal. So I think that you could use it for a lot of things, but that's what we had in mind when we developed this system.
Jeff,
We've got a Seed Finder has lots of wrong info. Glad to see you guys doing it right. From Far East. Thank you.
Riot Seeds hopped on. He'd probably be interested to learn about how this all works. He might have some interesting info.
Jeff,
who was that?
there's
The
50
buyer pays the
states.
fee. Sorry if that wasn't clear. I'm behind in the chat.
Oh, the buyer pays the fee with the
Buyer
contract.
pays the fee. Yeah.
Both fees.
Oh.
The service fee and the contract fee.
Well,
And-
that's really helpful for the breeder.
Yes.
The purveyor of the genetics. Wow, that's actually really interesting. Huh.
Well, Russell, if you look at the state of our communities right now, it has to be accessible. A lot of our legacy breeders are in their 70s and 80s and have no social security. And a lot of, there's some, as you know, some really important things there that need to be protected so they're not adulterated by folks that don't have the same intentions. So I am just really too tired to talk.
No, it's cool. This is good. My phone is probably minutes away from shutting down here. So if I get cut off, you know, it's been real.
Yeah, no worries. I'm 10 minutes away from needing to pick up my kids from school.
All right.
Well, this has been very enlightening for me. So I'm going to probably hop off here. But I super appreciate you guys taking the time to actually, you know, talk through all of these subtle intricacies of this project. So I'm excited for this because I think it's going to be, again, for breeders and potentially collective groups of small scale breeders developing this down the road. Really, and then I think the combination of the the testing is gonna, yeah, it's yeah. Anyways, all right, I don't have much to say,
Well,
but
send me that email so I can get you in the Friday conversations, because we're working on right now resourcing. Like we've got the most extensive cannabis DNA test you can get. It's a $1,450 test in the Legacy Project. They're giving it to us for $299.
is that the one through medical genomics?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was probably telling you about that.
Okay.
And then we're looking for right now, what I'm tasked with is to find more partners like that will see the need
Yeah.
and the benefit in working with us. So please shoot your email and I'll get you the code to get in the system, and we'd love to have you take a look too.
Cool.
Really get in there. All right. I'll
All right.
email that as well.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time. Peace.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
All right. Well, any more questions?
Should we go through these?
Do you know what the Paris Convention is, Jeff?
Yes, we're a separate system. So the Paris Convention is like a way to, and it's an international registry for plant IP. That I think I haven't looked into this in a while, but there's some complications with US law, like the plant variety protection certificates aren't available in the US for marijuana. We're just not using that system. I think what we've made is more user-friendly and elegant and, quicker. So that's the reason.
We did get kind of a strange comment here, identifying genetics for large ag to reproduce it and control the breeding. Not sure if I'm misunderstanding Nikki OG this comment, but basically we're putting the power back in the hands of the breeder to determine how their cultivars are grown. So it's really empowering the breeder to have a little bit more control over their plants.
The goal of using the system is that if anyone wants to get your genetics from you, they'd have to agree to the centralized terms and conditions. So you're negotiating something on your phone, but what it says is the person that's picking up clones from your nursery has to agree not to misappropriate your IP, and if they do, there's a remedy, as opposed to sort of right now, if somebody gets your genetics, they can kind of do whatever they want. So the idea is it's the exact opposite. It identifies genetics for large ag to reproduce, but they have to pay you fair compensation for that.
And of course, people can always do whatever they want, but when they sign an agreement, then
And I want to state that if you also want to give them away, you can too. If we're not telling you what to do, what we're trying to do is still give you the choice to give it away, so someone else doesn't maybe patent it if it's patentable, et cetera, et cetera. All right. There was another one earlier back that I think we should address about the putting in, two strains of the same name, of the same, lineage. Do you guys want to speak to that a little bit about well, if Joe puts in Cherry Chem and he's up in one region and Jill puts in Cherry Chem, they're two Cherry Chems. What are our solutions around that?
Yeah, we covered that earlier as well. Jeff had a really good response.
Earlier. Our response is to do nothing. Our response is that, if you have a genetic that you think you put a lot of work into, if you don't consider yourself to be the original breeder of a cultivar, there's a way for you to say you're the steward of the cultivar or you're authorized by the breeder. But let's just take this example. You're two people with two different genetics. They both spent 5 years working on it. They both consider themselves the breeder of it. It's two crosses with the same mom and dad sort of lineage. From our perspective, each person should be able to sell that genetic to a buyer. They put a lot of work into it. They're representing that they're the original breeder. And you look at examples of copyright law, you have two people that come up with the same song or the same photo or the same piece of art. As long as one person didn't copy the other person, you have the claim to it. So we really want to take examples of art rather than reinventing the wheel for cannabis. We want to take examples from how copyright law operates. Obviously, you can't copyright a plant, but we want to take examples in order to create a landscape that works without just too many disputes. All right. Keep your lawyer talk with your lawyers. Lawyers don't like lawyers chirping shit. I'm a lawyer that's chirping shit. I mean, I guess it's not really behind the scenes since it's on Instagram, but
and I'm a daughter of the Back to the Land movement who loves having such a smart lawyer to work with and talk with. I think we need more lawyers with big hearts like you, Jeff. So I want to answer before we go, because we are running out of time, to what is it, Cali NYC 13, any member for the DNA test. So that's Canopy Right is a part of a project that we're all a part of that I created actually quite a few years ago. And there's about over 100 of us across the globe who have been coming together as volunteers to find a way to protect, authenticate, and validate legacy genetics. And through that group, through that research, we have been offered low-cost testing for DNA. And if you would like to join those Friday meetings, they're on Zoom. They're open to everybody. Sometimes we have guests. Sometimes I talk a lot because we got to get some work done. But they're always open. And if anybody would like to join, just shoot me a note here on Canopy Right and we'll loop you in. And if any of you, Kingdom Concentrate, anybody else would really like to see what we're talking about, let us show you. Like, let's have a real conversation, because this was built not just with us, but with a lot of folks from our communities. And we don't want to do this because it's great for us. We want to do this because it's great for you. So we need your help in doing that. So give us a chance. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, bring us your concerns. We're happy to discuss.
And Friday, we're going to have Sean back. He's just, in the hills, quite literally. But Friday, we're having an amazing couple, again, from right on the Mendocino Southern Humboldt line, Emerald City Farms, and they have a proprietary cultivar that they've been working with for over 13 years and are launching a blunt line around it. So we're going to have Nicole and Aaron Wood on this Friday at 4:00. Please join us. Right on. Okay, well, I'll get to you right when I get off here. And please reach out right here through Instagram to any of us. You can find Jeff and Kelsey through here. You can find me through Canopy Right, or on Kelsey put the Legacy Project up there. And really, we're all here to listen and do the best we can. So let's have a talk.
Kingdom Concentrates. I was having trouble following all of your shit talking. But reach out to me and we'll do a one-on-one and we can go through it, because that's probably going to be the best way to get you the answers that you need. And you can decide for yourself whether or not you want to use this service.
And that's how we're going to ensure that this is something that really helps all our brothers and sisters. All right. Bye.
All right. Well, take care, everyone.
Rest of the week. We'll see you Friday. All right, Kelsey, what do I do to download this?